Oh yes, the time is now. What is it there, guys? This is Corbin. In this wee video I'm going to talk about my experiences and my final thoughts on good old Shadowbringers 5.0. I've had 24 hours to kind of stew on the expansion a little bit, stew on the ending of 5.0, so I thought now would be a great time to just revisit some memories, some highlights, some of my favourite bits in the expansion, and some bits I had a little bit of a problem with, because I do have a few critiques as well. It's not a 100% gush, it's just like a 98% gush about how fucking sweet this goddamn expansion was. So getting right into it, man, with the trailer, and trailer predictions and all of that, man, because, let me tell you, unsurprisingly, mine and Sophie's predictions were wrong. We were watching the trailer, we saw Thancred with little mini-philia and all of this. From there, we just kind of assumed, like, oh my goodness, rewrite history, the Exarch's talking about and all this. Oh, time travel, dude, we're going back in time, we're gonna change the past and all of this, you know? And then, like, when we saw Urianger and Y'shtola in the trailer, only he was calling her Master Matoya, we were like, oh my goodness, wait a minute, dude, does that mean that Master Matoya that we met, like, in the present, is actually just Y'shtola? And, like, Y'shtola's stuck in a time loop? Because, and then, like, Master Matoya's wearing the hat in the present as that old lady, you know, but she's, like, really hiding her Mikote ears and all of this. Yeah, it didn't quite work out like that, man. So, we arrived in the first, and oh my goodness, dude, what a beginning to an expansion. Not even just from, like, a point of, like, epicness, just from a point of just gorgeousness. Holy shit. Like, the sky all lit up with the crystal tower. It's like, it feels like that's one of those experiences, man, that's gonna stick with you forever. And as if that wasn't good enough of an introduction to an expansion, we get a goddamn Icelandic bunny lady greeting us at the gates of the Crystarium. Are you kidding me, dude? Lena was amazing, but more on her in a little bit. Ooh. I should also mention that we were introduced to Theo, you know, good old Theo, in the Crystarium as well when you first arrive there. And I'll be honest with you, man, my first impressions of Theo, I was like, you know what, I bet she's gonna turn out to be cool. I was still calling her a she at this time. I still do. I fuck it up all the time, I'm sorry. But me personally, I'm not a big fan of, like, the super kind of fairy tale whimsical style characters, you know, the Peter Pan style characters. But oh my god, man, was I so pleasantly surprised by not just Theo, but the entire Fairfolk section of the game. It was so goddamn good. But again, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. I'm trying to move through this in something approaching chronological order. So Sophie and I, we actually went to Yulmore first, which according to you guys in the comments, was actually a very, very rare choice. Apparently most people choose to go visit Alice first, but me and Sophie went to Yulmore, we met up with Alfie. I've got to say, I was hoping for a little bit more of a epic kind of emotional reunion with Alfie, given that he's been in the first at this point for quite some time, a couple of years I think. So I was expecting a little bit more from that, but you know, it was fine. Yulmore, intriguing place. Meeting Volthree, that was a big ass what the fuck moment, you know, but a lot of Yulmore was really kind of based around the intrigue. And just this feeling that there's something very, very rotten going on under the surface, and you know, that promise that you're eventually going to get to figure that out, man. So, very, very intriguing. Also, after Volthree throws his very first big ass tantrum in his throne room, for lack of a better term, I just realized, man, after watching that little cutscene back, it's actually fucking Emet-Selch, who's kind of standing at the back of the crowd as they're all kind of, oh yes, applauding for Volthree, you know what I mean? So Emet-Selch is there keeping an eye on what is effectively his creation, you know, in the form of Lord Volthree, man. So, ooh, that adds a little bit of extra spice, man. But I just realized that just watching the clip back on, like, my other screen. I should be playing in the bottom half. That's a little tidbit, man. It's cool what you notice, you know, when you look back on these things. And then finally, at last, our adventures took us to the dreaded Ahm Araeng and the inevitable, immutable, and irrevocable welcome to Shadowbringers moment with poor old Tesleen, man. Tesleen! She deserved better than that, dude. She deserved better than that. But rewinding back a little bit, can I just tell you something? When we first stepped foot in Ahm Araeng, that music, dude, there was something about that music that just felt so grim and haunting already from the first moment you step into Ahm Araeng, dude. Oh my goodness, it was immediately, I knew immediately it was going to be one of my most favourite tracks from the expansion. And so anyhow, man, the whole storyline with Tesleen and Alice and the kind of like field hospital that they're trying to look after and stuff, all the people infected by the Light Wardens, that story begins to pick up pace a little bit. Tesleen absolute goddamn saint of a lady. And oh my goodness, the writing in this zone was so good. And it was so fucking genius, man, of the writers or writer to be ballsy enough, to be brave enough to make a decision and do something this brutal this early on in the expansion. Because, dear me, dude, if this fucking body horror can happen to Tesleen this early on in the expansion and just kind of out of nowhere, you know, it really puts this sense of dread in your stomach for the rest of the story, where I was like, oh my god, dude, not everyone's gonna make it. One of the Scions is doomed. Like, there's no way all of the Scions make it out of here, man. Thancred, I've got my eyes on you, laddie. I did not fucking think Thancred was gonna make it, man. And you know what? It's like, especially after this happened with Tesleen, I was like, dude, this is like, the writers ain't pulling no punches, man, with this goddamn expansion, you know. So I was terrified, and that was genius, man. That was genius, you know. I gotta mention as well, actually, just skip ahead by like a minute or something if you do not want any Final Fantasy VII spoilers. And that might seem a little bit dumb to mention. Final Fantasy VII, that's been out for like fucking 20 plus years, you know. Yeah, it has. But look, a lot of people haven't played through the PlayStation 1 version of Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people are just discovering the game for the first time via the Final Fantasy VII remake. So look, you've been warned, okay? Fucking spoilers. But that entire Tesleen death, someone mentioned in the comments, and oh my goodness, man, whoever you were, I'm sorry I don't have your name on hand, you were so right about the one-winged angel reference. Oh no, dude. She chops off one of its wings. So it's like a literal one-winged angel behind her, and not only that, but she dies basically on her knees in that kind of hands-out, begging, praying pose, in the same way that poor Aerith got skewered by Big Sephiroth, dude. Are you kidding me, man? I totally missed that, but it felt like a big nod, you know, and oh man, it's just one of those layers. It's one of those layers to the story, you know, that's just so gorgeous. There's like so many things like that, man, throughout Shadowbringers. I'm gonna forget some of them, but I'm gonna try to remember to mention these little nods and stuff and things that you guys point out in the comments for me, as well as we go, but I will miss some of them. This was one of them. Oh my goodness, dude. It's actually getting my adrenaline firing and my heart rate up a little bit, because I've got it on the other screen right now and I can see poor Tesleen. It's not looking good, dude. But anyways, man, we're gonna leave that one there. Ahm Araeng, what a masterpiece. What an incredible way to really kick off the expansion, man. It was so good. The writing, the music, the lot of it. Oh god, no. And I gotta mention as well about poor Tesleen before we wrap that up. I'm sorry, but that whole forgive me Alice action, which is like a final words before she finally loses all control. Oh, how haunting was that shit, dude? Okay, I'm done with Ahm Araeng. I'm done reliving that goddamn horror show, dude. Let's move on to the next bit, man. Which were actually much happier times with the Fairfolk. So actually, before moving on to the Fairfolk, we go ahead and help rescue Minifillia. Good old Minnie. And we meet up with Thancred and stuff, and that's what actually gets us on the way to meeting the Fairfolk. It's also just before we go to Mheg also that we are introduced to Emet-Selch's presence in the first. And oh my goodness, dude, I was so fucking happy to see this, man. Emet-Selch already had made such a huge impression on me at this point, with the way that he just swaggered about, not giving a shit in front of Emperor Varus, you know? Just his entrance music and his mannerisms and his theatrical way of being, you know, was so fucking entertaining and so intriguing to watch. So, yeah, I was stoked to see him here in the first. So, anywho, we arrive in Mheg, and Minifilia's and Thancred's very strange, kind of tenuous relationship with super strict dad cred starts to become more and more apparent. Really right off the bat, you know? And it's to the point where you kind of feel bad for Minnie, because it's like, wow, man, dude, is it really that necessary to be that strict with the Thancred, man? Calm down, dude, you know? And of course it becomes apparent as time goes on that he's not just being overly strict with her, it's that he's actually harboring a degree of resentment towards her, you know? Because she's not the real Minfilia. She's not the real Minfilia as much as he wishes that she was, right? And I gotta tell you, man, I absolutely love how they handled this, man. There's something in storytelling, when it comes to good storytelling or good, kind of like emotive storytelling, and the rule is show, don't tell. It was never said at any point, Thancred is resentful towards Minifillia because he wishes that she was big Philia, you know? It never fucking just outright said that. It was all just implied through his actions and through his words and through his harshness towards her and stuff like that, you know, even when she really did not much wrong. And I just fucking love how they handled it, man. I love how it was kind of up to you to sort of figure that out and gradually learn Minifilia's story, and the fact that she kind of loosely, vaguely, sort of remembers Big Minfilia inhabiting her body for a little while so that she could speak to Thancred, and Thancred being devastated about the fact that Big Minfilia won't come back, even though she has the option to do so, you know. Of course, all of this stuff is hinted at a little bit later, but I can't help myself, man. The Thancred Minifilia story was so goddamn exciting, so yeah, I jumped ahead a little bit there. Anyway, we learned a little bit more about PHEW, finally, in this zone, and that's awesome as well. This was the zone. It didn't take long, really, for PHEW to really grow on me, and for me to get rid of this whole, oh, I don't like whimsical characters nonsense, you know. No, she's absolutely fucking awesome. Anyway, she shows up, angry as hell that you didn't call on her sooner, solves all of your problems instantly, and then is still angry with you because, you know, she hasn't forgiven you yet for ignoring her, you know. You're supposed to be her precious sapling, goddammit, her precious Schnee, and she's just so good. I love how much fun the voice actress was having with PHEW, you know. She really went to town. Anyway, so we finally get to meeting up with Urianger towards the end of the Ilmeg zone before the dungeon, and that's when Thancred actually divulges his encounter with, you know, what he calls my Minfilia, the older Minfilia, who, again, you know, inhabited the younger Minfilia and spoke to him briefly. And during all of this time, man, it's such a terrible, sad, horrible cutscene. Can I just say, I never really cared about Thancred that much. Ever. Same thing with Y'shtola, same thing with Urianger. I was just never that bothered about their stories because I just didn't really feel like they're being that fleshed out, you know what I'm saying? I'd never really seen them utterly weak before, right? I'd never seen them wounded before, man, which I think that's really important when you're looking to kind of gel with a character and understand the character, right? And so seeing Thancred just desperate, just begging his Minfilia to come back, you know, and to, even if it means inhabiting the body and the vessel of this, of Minifilia to do it, which would effectively snuff her out, you know, and him just begging her, you know, what can I do? Tell me what to do. Jesus, man, did I really feel for the guy. Because you're just going to put yourself... Because it's like, he knows what the consequences would be if Big Minfilia was to come back. It would snuff out this young girl who, she didn't ask for this. She just happened to be born as the latest incarnation of the Oracle of Light, you know, and that was it. She had no choice over this, and still, he's so desperate to have his Minfilia back. Oh man, it's making me emotional now, dude, even just thinking about that fucking cutscene, you know? And so you begin to understand then and there, okay, like he's treating this young Minfilia with such resentment, you know, he's clearly so far from being over this and so far being settled with this, that the best he can do is to not direct or try to guide this young Minfilia, because you can tell with every fiber of his being, he wants to kind of encourage her and lead her on to making the decision to give up her vessel, you know, to the older Minfilia, but it's all he can do to keep his hands off the situation and just be bitter about it, but not really say too much to try to goad her into making a certain decision, you know, because he thinks that she's naive to what's happening to her at that time, you know. And so it's this terrible struggle, man. And oh my goodness, I really felt for Thancred at this time, you know. And then equally, by the way, again, Urianger, a character I just didn't really care about almost at all. I felt like he was just never really developed throughout almost any of the expansions, besides, oh, he's a secret master, you know, he's a whisperer and all of this kind of stuff, and he speaks in lofty words. That small gesture of big Uncle Urianger, dude, telling Minfilia to pick some books to take for the road, and Minfilia being all excited about it and coming out with the book all hugged up to her chest and stuff like, I'm ready. It was like, yes! Fucking Big Daddy Urianger, man. Well, Uncle Urianger, you know. That was so fucking sweet, dude. That was so cool. That was so cool to see, man. I was so starved for characterization of this guy, you know. We'd known him for so long and we knew so little about him and his mannerisms, but it's like, to see his sympathetic side was just so good. So raw, man. Really needed that for the guy, you know. Anyway, so we head into that dungeon. It was like the underwater dungeon. It was like a Alice in Wonderland kind of thing. It was fun. It was cool. felt like a bit of a sidetrack, felt like a bit of a run around, you know, which, don't get me wrong, not many of the trials and dungeons really felt like that in this expansion. A lot of them felt like they really had purpose and meaning and drove the plot forward in a meaningful way, which is great. I think that Stormblood is an expansion that struggled a lot with this. A lot of the trials came out of left field and stuff, you know, they just felt like hurdles that were there for the sake of gameplay and giving us something to do. This was one of those dungeons that for me felt a little bit kind of meh in that sense. It didn't feel like it was narratively driving the story forward that much, but it was kind of fun. Can't complain too hard. And anyways, it's actually after that dungeon that we finally have that chat when we are finally alone with Minifillia, you know, and she finally reveals at last to our character in concrete terms that, look, she knows exactly what Thancred's going through, and she has a very, very strong suspicion that the old Minfilia is still around, the old Oracle of Light is still around, and that for a time in Ahm Araeng she did inhabit her body, you know, and it's one of those things, it's one of those truisms. People always say, you know, if like parents are going through a bad time or whatever, or if there's tension between adults, kids know that shit. They don't know how they know it, they just kind of sense it. Kids know things, kids hear things and understand things that adults don't realize that they're going to understand and know and sense. And this just felt like one of those very true fucking moments, you know. The kids know, Minnie knew exactly what was going on with Thancred, even if she didn't understand the exact mechanics of it, you know. And can I just say as well, I really, really appreciate how dark the backstories are for like most of the fair folk, you know. You actually have the fairies or the pixies, you know. I'm not sure what exactly the term is for all of the fairies or the pixies, but they're all like supposed to be the souls of children who got lost in the woods, you know, and that's why they just want to play with people, you know, so with like these horrific consequences, turn people into plants so they can play with them forever and keep them in their garden, you know. It's like, oh god, it's kind of creepy, man. And even the water spirits that lived under the lake, those are like the souls of people who drown and they want to keep you in the lake forever, which kind of manifests towards the end of the dungeon as well. So it feels like a lot of the fair folk have these very kind of dark, wicked, again, kind of Wonderland, really quite grim and sinister backstories behind them, which I thought was just a really, really cool twist, man. It's sweet. It's awesome. I like that kind of thing. There's also an amazing cutscene towards the end of Mheg as well, you know, Ranjit clashing with Thancred, and Thancred being a dadcred, a real dadcred, a noble dadcred, and protecting little Minnie, you know, and there's that huge clash and Feo comes down, and a lot of Eulmorans get turned into plants, which is kind of unfortunate when you think about it, given most of them were just being mind-controlled by all three in the end, and they really had not much control over what they were doing, but that's a whole other debate for a bit later on. Anyways, before we head on to the next zone, which is the Great Wood, to go catch up with Y'shtola, Emmet just kind of joins the party, which is totally... didn't see that coming at all, you know? But again, I was stoked about that. I fucking love this guy. I love his theatrics. I love the swagger with which he conducts himself and his flair for the dramatic, you know? Just such a goddamn fun and intriguing character, and he really drove along that sense that not everything was quite right, and that revelations were coming further on down the road, you know? So we arrive in the Great Wood. Emmet just fucking bails when we're like on the brink of being captured, which I just absolutely loved as well. And then we finally catch up with Y'shtola. It doesn't take Y'shtola long to start ripping into Thancred over his treatment of Minnie. And honestly, it was a little bit controversial. Sophie didn't like it. She was like, what the fuck, Y'shtola? You can't say that. Like, what's wrong with you putting him on the spot like that in front of Minnie? But honestly, I kind of liked it a little. I was like, you know what, man? Someone needs to just fucking tell him, man. Someone needs to shame him for being the resentful, unmoving on git that he's being towards Minnie, man. It's not Minnie's fault, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it. I think Thancred really needed that. And if there was one character that was just going to fucking tell him like it is, be blunt as hell, it had to be Y'shtola, man. It had to be Y'shtola, you know. You can trust Y'shtola to tell you the truth when you least want to hear it. You know what I mean? She strikes me as that kind of Miko type. God damn, man. I'm getting like red in the neck. Partially because I'm getting all worked up and excited about the story, but partially because this cat is a little pod of heat. And she is making me sweat balls, dude. Are you kidding me? With how hot it is in this room right now. Anyways, you meet some of the villagers, some of the Nightfallen, I think they're called, and you meet Runa. Runa, good guy, man. I like Runa. He's good people, you know. Clean people, big heart, our Runa. And you eventually go off on a little excursion with Minfilia, Which was fun, because you get that little dialogue option, you know, and she's like, oh, but I'm not supposed to leave the village, you know, what if Thancred comes back and sees that I'm gone? And you can just be like, well, Thancred doesn't have to know, love. You're your own woman, you can do what you want, you know, and you can kind of encourage her a bit. You can be that fun uncle to Minfilia, man, which I really, really like that touch, man. Those little dialogue options, they're sweet. That's what adds the heart and soul, the lifeblood, you know, to really feeling like part of the family when it comes to the Scions, man. Of course, this is also the point in the story where Emmet actually pulls Y'shtola out of the live stream. And at this point, my head was spinning, dude. Are you kidding me? What the hell is this guy helping us for, you know? Obviously, it's clear to me now that we've finished things up, but man, what a simple way to display his immense power and his immense command over, you know, forces that we barely understand as mere mortals, you know? It was an incredible moment for that. It was an incredible moment for character building. Can I just say as well that Y'shtola, in this moment, when she comes back, also the fact that Emmet, like, clicks his fingers and restores Y'shtola's clothes to almost, like, maintain her dignity. How good is that, man? Like, what a little nugget of character building that is, you know? He still has that like, innate respect for life on some level, so as to understand that even though he sees us as animals, we are still deserving of some form of dignity, you know? So he makes that little gesture, you know, which is just so interesting, man. Layers, you know? Anyway, and this is what I'm talking about, man, about goddamn character building in this expansion. Y'shtola, again, I must reiterate, she was always just kind of the very distant, detached, pragmatic hard-ass. That's all I really ever saw her as. She didn't really have much of a part to play in Stormblood. Definitely not much of a part to play in Heavensward for obvious reasons. But this expansion, I was like, man, is she just going to be the hard-ass again? You know what? When she gets pulled out the goddamn live streamer and Runar comes running up and you get this big goddamn lion motherfucker scoop up Y'shtola, you know, and she's all like, oh my god, what the fuck, you know, she kind of doesn't know what to do with herself, and he's like swinging around all happy that she's back, you know, and seeing her in such a vulnerable state like that, that was just so good, man. Stuff like that, like seeing a character that's usually so hard-ass and so straight-edge, giving way to a little bit of humor, and being put in a situation like that was just so fucking endearing, man. And Y'shtola really grew on me a lot, man, during this expansion. This was the first of a couple of moments. Anywho, as things progress, the next key moment is really when Emmet is discussing with us the true origins of, you know, Zodiac and Hydaelyn and all of this, and it's the first time he postulates the idea. You never really know whether or not to trust him at this point. It becomes apparent a bit later on that he is actually telling the truth about everything. He omits some facts here and there, but everything he says does seem to be nested in truth. So, yeah. Just built more intrigue about the character. What can I say, man? Next was the attack on the Crystarium by the forces, or rather the Sin Eater Swarm, directed by 4-3 from Yulmore. You know what I'm saying? And oh my god, dude. Again, was I terrified that someone wasn't going to make it here? I was like, man, Thancred, don't die on me, man. I was so convinced this expansion, and the longer it went on, the more convinced I became that Thancred just wasn't going to make it, you know? That point where Minfilia is being charged by the kind of angelic big-ass Sin Eater, and Thancred jumps in at the last second. He's coughing blood, but he's throwing himself at this goddamn thing to protect her, you know? It's like, oh my god, dude. Again, Thancred grew on me so much as expansion, like almost all of the fucking Scions did, you know? And seeing Lena in the state that she was in once the battle was done, oh my goodness, dude. For a character that basically got, I don't want to say almost no screen time, because everybody remembers Lena, obviously, you know, the Viera, that fucking incredible accent, an amazing voice actress, oh my god. But for how little voice-acted screen time she got in cutscenes, what an impact that character made, dude. I don't know, I think it was just the voice actress, honestly, being an absolute boss and just ruling that part, man. So, I mean, that was horrific. And I'm going to try to read what Lena says. It's on my other screen right now, and I'm going to try to say it without just my voice cracking, because straight up after the battle's done, she's beaten, she's wounded, but she's refusing to, you know, submit herself for treatment. She wants to stay among the other troops who were all wrecked and wounded and fallen. And she wants to be there for them, you know, but the woman can barely walk. Laughing is a big-ass defense mechanism for me, by the way, in case you can't fucking tell when it comes to these hyper-emotional scenes. Oh, a lifetime of trying to bury my emotions and be a man, you know? She says that she's fine. She says that she's completely and utterly fine. Better than fine. Hale and hearty. And still alive to mourn those who are not. Oh no, dude. Who I failed to protect when they needed me most. And their goddamn voice acting is so good that I'm about to cry. I actually need to get her off my screen right now. She's on my other monitor right now. I can't do it, dude. Oh man, and then Vorthree comes over the megaphone on the fucking airship and he's gloating about his victory and purporting that he's the one true savior and they must yield and all of this, and it's like, I can't wait to kill that fucking rotund son of a bitch, you know what I mean? That fucking chode on legs, man. I can't wait to get a hold of that guy, you know? For Ryne, goddammit.
Utterly fine, better than fine, hale and hearty and still alive to mourn those who are not, who I failed to protect when they needed me most.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh god. That Ryne scene has fucked me up. I need a goddamn drink, man. I actually cannot continue recording this video, man, straight up. Woo! Calm down, Tom. Fucking hell. Numpkin, give me cuddles. Man, what a video game, man. Okay, I gotta tell you, man, it's actually crazy going back to all of these highlights of this fucking MSQ so far and getting all of the emotional unload and all the emotional reminders coming back all at once. It's not helping, man. It's not helping, you know? Anyway, so the plan becomes to bring Minfilia to, to bring Minfilia to old Minfilia. I guess so she can either take on her powers or allow herself to be usurped in her own body, I guess, by the older Minfilia, you know? So it's really fucking crunch time, you know? What's Thancred gonna do? Is he gonna finally weigh in? Is he gonna try to direct a decision to get big Minfilia back, you know? And I gotta tell you the truth. The start of Ahm Araeng 2.0 was horrible, dude. I fucking hated this so. We got some little idiot called Jarek, like, oh, I fucking love trolleys so much, me. Trolley, yay, trolleys. It's like, dude, the world is on the line, right? We're gonna discover what happens to Minnie, right? We're gonna finally see whether or not Thancred is gonna come to terms with his grief for the old Minfilia, or he's gonna fall victim to his longing, you know, to see her come back. And we're fucking helping these imbecile hillbillies rebuild a trolley. A fucking trolley pushing automaton, you know? It's like, dude, honestly, man, don't get me wrong, the whole Magnus section was amazing. I wish upon wish that they really focused on Magnus's story. Much more among all of the miners. It was so... I feel like it just had some untapped potential. They did well with it in the end, but I think that they could have focused on that more, seeing how how Magnus was really struggling, even after years, you know, just like Thancred, to deal with his grief for his wife who died for a dream, and to try to make the village that they were in prosperous once again, you know. And he couldn't deal with that. Magnus was wrecked with guilt, and Thancred finally saw himself in this character and said, you know what? I don't want to be like this guy, man. I don't want to end up at the bottom of a bottle like this dude. And we tried to help Magnus, and in trying to help Magnus, I think that Thancred himself realized that it's time to move on, man. It's time to move on. And move on he did in the end. Oh, thank goodness. And he also did it without dying too. Jesus Christ. We also get a small cutscene while we are in Ahm Araeng 2.0 that actually shows Emmet and the Exarch having a discussion together in the Crystal Tower, which... very, very interesting. At this point, I didn't trust the Exarch at all, by the way. I was like, man, is this going to be some crazy twist where we turn out to actually be needing to work alongside the Scions here somehow, some way, you know, or at least with Emmet, maybe he has different interests to the other Scions or something, and he's trying to accomplish something a little bit different, and we didn't have a clue who the Exarch was. I mean, we had suspicions, but it almost felt like, if it was fucking Rahatia, you know, surely they'd just tell us by now, because that was my first guess as soon as we saw the guy. I mean, it was like the logical answer, you know, but the fact that they hid him from sight made me think, oh man, there's something more going on here, you know, so I really didn't trust the Exarch, and the scene didn't help, you know, especially when Emmet mentions later on, you know, don't you find it curious that the Exarch never lowers his hood whenever you're around, you know, and I was like, is there more going on here? Well, there really kind of wasn't. But then I gotta tell you the truth, man. I gotta tell you the truth. From one of the lowest points of Shadowbringers, my god, man, did Ahm Araeng 2.0 with the conclusion, or like one of the conclusions, I guess, of Thancred's arc and Minfilia's arc. Did that really make up for it, man? Oh my god, this was such an emotional scene, dude, because all of this way up until Minfilia meets Big Minfilia, you really get to see Mini struggle with this idea of, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can handle this burden. I don't know if I can handle the burden of this life. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be born as the fucking Oracle of Light in this reincarnation, this lacking weak reincarnation of the Oracle of Light, Minfilia, you know. I didn't choose this, and I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to even try to do this. I'm a big believer that everyone feels that at some point in their life. You know what I mean? Every day you feel it in your life. Why do anything? Why wash the fucking dishes? You know? Why shower when you live alone? Right? Think about that. Why shower when you live? Why make the effort to do fucking anything? Why look after your body? Why try to achieve lofty goals that are probably going to result in failure? And when you die, it's probably all over anyway. So why bother doing anything, you know? And it's like, that's all packed in for me, at least, into the way that I read Minfilia's story, you know? Why try when I can just end it right here and let someone more capable take over, and I don't have to worry about any of this, you know? And seeing her move gradually towards wanting to become a self-realized, self-driven, self-motivated person who is willing to grab life by the horns, come what may, and just do her best, was so fucking good. It was so moving, dude. I was just, for the whole time, I was just like, yes, this is it, man. This is what life is all about for everybody. Like, this is one of the most human stories I'd ever seen conveyed in just an RPG. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I found it extremely moving, man. I thought it was so good. And obviously Thancred finally puts his life on the line utterly for this Minfilia, you know? Some of you guys actually mentioned in the comments that at the point that Thancred is fighting to protect Mini, he's pretty much realized at this point that Big Minfilia is not going to come back. He's made peace with that. He thinks that Minfilia is going to make what I think is the right choice and choose to kind of stick around and fulfill her destiny on her own terms, you know? And he's come to terms with the fact that he's not going to see Big Minfilia again, right? And after he effectively passes the fuck out after fending off Ranjit, he says all kinds of voice lines that I'm not going to repeat out all of them, but there's a lot of callbacks to some of Minfilia's final-ish words to him, you know, when they last met, I guess, in the place between, when we were helping out the Warriors of Darkness way back when. And that scene is really his final farewell, you know, to Minfilia, you know. It's the completion of an arc and the beginning of a new arc, with him being full-on dadcred to Ryne, right? Oh yeah, I gotta mention as well, extra little tidbits, extra little nods that I picked up on. There was references made to like Biran Village and Ronsos in Ahm Araeng 2.0. And if you've played Final Fantasy X, you'll know what a fucking Ronso is, and you'll know that there was a Ronso called Biran. And it's so fucking cool that they slipped in the Final Fantasy X references, because I got such huge Yuna vibes from Minfilia, you know? We were all protecting her, we were all looking after her, we were all her guardians, if you like, as we were escorting her towards the place where she needed to go to meet old Minfilia, you know? We were all escorting her as her guardians towards her destination, without ever really knowing if she was going to make it out of there, or whether or not we were leading her to her death, effectively, you know? And if Big Minfilia was going to take over her body, right? And that's so reminiscent of Final Fantasy X, man. And I remember thinking that, and then I saw the Ronso reference and the Biran reference, and I was like, oh my god, dude, like, I think that's totally deliberate, you know? Because it was very reminiscent of Yuna's story in FF10, which, man, I just love the little nods. What can I say, man? And then the greatest scene that ever was and ever will be. Not really, but it was incredible seeing Ryne come back into the group and Thancred's all beat up and bloodied and shit, and people don't really know what to expect because we came back with Ryne, but she's kind of shy and she's hiding behind like a wagon before she has the guts to kind of present herself back to Thancred and the rest of us, especially Thancred, because she doesn't know how he's going to react, you know? She knows how kind of bitter and salty he was about the idea of losing Big Minfilia, and here she comes, you know, with this change of hair so she can really embody a whole own kind of new person, you know. It's really a symbol of her no longer being just a shadow of Minfilia. She's her own person now, you know. And she gets her name, dude. And it's like, oh man. You see, oh, we have to give her a new name. We have to give her a new... And everyone just looks at Thancred and he's like, oh fuck, I guess I am her dad, you know. I am Dadcred after all. I suppose I gotta think of one, you know. How about Ryne? He didn't say Ryne, but me and Sophie call her Ryne. Ryne just looking all happy, and it's such a great moment, you know. It's really Ryne being introduced into the group and accepted as her own new person. It was like a goddamn christening, you know. It's like she was born again, and I could just gush over this fucking scene all day, man. It was so sweet. And I don't know what else to tell you, man. It was just fucking great. Oh, okay, that's what he does, man. Minfilia comes in, because she's still called Minfilia at this point, and she just says, you know, I can track the Light Wardens now, and I might be able to help you fight them, you know, and she's just trying to be useful, you know, and the first thing Thancred does, he doesn't give a shit about that. You can see she looks all shy and nervous, and with this big fucking dumb smile on his face, he pats her on the head and just says, I'm glad you're back. And it's like, yes, dude, it was so fucking good, it was so right, you know. Okay, that's enough of that one. Woo! I'm gonna get all emotional again, I can't help myself, man. Okay, so we get some lore bombs from Emet-Selch, where he's talking about how all of the shards splitting from the original star literally like cut everyone's lifespans into like 14ths of what they were, and we're all like shorter now as a result and stuff. We're all just inept like animals. We went from like highly evolved humans to fucking spider gibbons. Anyways, after those lore bombs, which are all very, very interesting, again, it starts to help you understand Emmet's kind of point of view on things a little bit more, which is really intriguing. He's such a sympathizable villain, you know, because it's like, the way I put it to Sophie was like, oh, well, this is like going on a little bit in the story. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But Sophie was like, well, how can you really say that he isn't the villain with how many people he wants to wipe out and this and that? But then I explained to her, I was like, look, he sees us, like, imagine if it was human beings, okay? And you're in M's position, you're the human in your eyes, and all of the other humans have turned into fucking spider monkeys, you know? And that's what they are to you, because they're so deficient compared to what you would describe as a human, that they don't even appear to be human to you anymore, you know? So who cares how many spider monkeys you gotta wipe out if it's gonna literally save your civilization? And you're just like, oh, well, it was so long ago, it was thousands of years ago, you know, that the Ascian race, if you like, kind of ruled over things. Maybe he should let it go, but it's like, at the same time, first of all, he's one of the last hopes for his civilization ever. And second of all, time is relative to fucking Ascians, you know? When you're immortal, 3,000 years, 10,000 years, whatever, dude, it might as well be a day, you know? So imagine that you were in his situation and like your civilization was wiped out last week. It becomes really, really easy to understand his motivations, in my estimation. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, getting ahead of myself a little bit. We head back to Yulmore to turf out Vorthri. He throws a big-ass goddamn tantrum, sprouts little baby wings, and then fucks off. And that was a big hint into itself as well. He sprouted wings like, what are those little angels called? Cupids? Was it Cupid? With like the little love arrows and stuff. His little dinky wings kind of remind me of that a little bit, which is interesting because they're always a baby. And then you notice the hair on his head, and it's very much like a little sprig of hair like you see in cartoon babies, you know? You ever see like a drawing of a baby or like a Cabbage Patch Kid? Kind of looks a little bit like that. Interesting, he starts screaming and hollering about how he's preordained to rule and he won't be brought low by maggots and all of this kind of stuff, you know, and he throws a big ass tantrum like a baby. It's all very, very interesting, you know, and that kind of ties in a little bit later, man. It's really interesting to look back on these things, you know. Anyways, in pursuing Vorthri, we enlist the help of Lord Chai, and that's amazing to see as well, getting to see more of Dulia Chai and to see Lord Chai really come into his own again. And you know, it's one of these things, you see people become very, very quickly resentful and bitter and agitated when they have nothing to do. And when you're living a life of decadence for as long as they were in Yulmore, that's Lord and Lady Chai, it's not surprising at all that Lord Chai became a total asshole, but then you give him something to do, something to work on, and something to work towards, and goals to accomplish, and suddenly it's like he became a totally different person, you know? Which was fantastic. There's also that incredible scene as well where you're all theorizing about building this giant, I'm just going to call it a trolley. It's like the golem that's going to grab onto Vorthri's floating island, you know? And Lord Chai's all confused, like, how the hell do you have the influence to pull all of this help from all of these places in the first to help us build this giant goddamn golem, this giant goddamn automaton that's going to help us accomplish this and give us access to Vorthri's floating island? How the hell are you going to enlist the help of so many people, you know? Just who exactly are you? And, you know, you get that text option, we are the artist, Alphino, and his assistants. And again, this is another moment that just endeared me so much to Y'shtola. You see Alphino kind of panicking, like, oh, wait, like, what the fuck is happening, you know? And everyone else just kind of strikes a pose, and Y'shtola most of all kind of strikes a pose, you know, playing into the fucking joke. And again, it's just a side to Y'shtola that we just haven't really seen before, you know? The more lighter-hearted side of Y'shtola. Anyways, we finally get access to Vorthri, take him down, it's an incredible fucking trial, and he starts kind of weeping on. He says things like, Father told me that I am hope, I am righteousness, that I am a god. And he almost seems legitimately confused. At one point he even begs you for help. You know, I am your god, you must help me, right? And it is extremely pitiful, and it becomes even more literally pitiful, not even in like a facetious way. It becomes literally pitiful when you get the echo and you see what actually happened and how Lord Vorthri was created in the womb of his mother, and he was always preordained to be a Sin Eater, you know, from birth. And he was effectively to be used as a tool by his parents in order to control the other Sin Eaters so that they could become a ruling force in the world, you know? So that was honestly tragic as hell. That was honestly tragic as hell to realize, especially when you look at the guy and you realize that everything he's ever said about how he's meant to rule, how he's preordained to rule, he's supposed to rule and people are supposed to worship him and all of this, these are all just Oedipal mother slogans. This is just his parents seeding his head with all of these malicious and malevolent and kind of really, really toxic fucking ideas, and he basically had never had any control, you know? Spoiled beyond any measurable point that you could possibly conceive of, and he stayed a baby forever. That's why he has the little baby sprig on his hair. That's why he sprouted little goddamn cupid wings, you know, when he flew away towards the end. He was just literally, that's why he threw tantrums. He was just a giant, indoctrinated, weaponized infant. And that was really it, man. And it was kind of fucking horrific, you know? And at the end of the day, that wasn't just his parents doing, but that was Emmet's doing as well. And I didn't realize that at the time so much. I didn't really ascribe that much blame to Emmet because I was still trying to understand his motivations for doing this. And then obviously his inevitable betrayal happens. And my god, man, how did they manage to make Rahatia being shot by Emmet, like the most inevitable betrayal I've ever seen, shocking? I don't know what the hell it was. Maybe it was just the dramaticness of the whole thing. It was just so fucking well done. I hadn't really PogChamped that hard until that point yet in this expansion, man. So that cutscene, that whole revelation, all of those things coming to pass, us starting to break down under the weight of all of the light inside of us, all of those things. Oh my god, did they set the stage for an incredible ending. And an incredible ending it was. You'll have to forgive me for skipping over some of the advert stuff, mostly in this video, because honestly, if I start touching all of these little things, I'm going to be here for 2 hours, which maybe some of you guys would be fine with, but I'm going to try to stick to mainly the let's call them the living Scions, the stories, for the time being. So next up we get to the bit where we are effectively breaking down under the weight of the light energy that we've been absorbing throughout all the expansions so far, and we are on our way to go after the Exarch and to pursue Emmet, and to try to see this thing through before we succumb to the light and start killing everything around us, effectively, you know? And honestly, I genuinely got the sense, I was like, man, we need to get the hell out of the goddamn Crystarium before the Scions realize that we're trying to leave on our own, you know? Because they shouldn't have to fucking go through this. I don't want them to have to watch us turn. I don't want them to have to watch us die. I don't want to have to put them through this shit, you know? And of course, they catch us at the goddamn Amaro launch, you know? And you've got goddamn Urianger getting down on a knee and and apologizing for his deceptions, which were revealed a little bit earlier on. And you got Alice absolutely furious that we are trying to leave. She's actually furious with Ryne as well for just a second as well for giving us the wishful thinking kind of promise, you know, that they're going to find a way to suppress the light and she's going to save us and stuff. It's like, no, man, it ain't going to go down like that. And Alice just calls it like it is. And it's so brutal because she's been so close to people who've been afflicted with the light so many times in protecting the camp and in seeing Tesseline turn with her own eyes, you know. And oh my god, like, it's such an emotionally charged scene. And I was like, dude, I just felt like I didn't want to subject the Scions to whatever the hell it was our character was about to go through, you know. But being the family that they are, they refuse to leave our side, man, and they come with us. And that was such an incredible fucking scene as well, man. And so finally, we arrive in Amarot, man, and I'm so glad that they included this part of the game, because honestly, even though it was very, very slow paced, I was so glad for that, because, man, I wanted to know so much more, and I got so much more information than I could have ever hoped to have got about the way that the Ascian civilization used to be. What did their city look like? What did their people look like? The fact that their people are so goddamn tall, that humanity itself used to be these giants with so much access to magics that it's incomprehensible to our modern day characters, you know? It just really drove home my sympathies for Emmet, honestly, you know? For all of his betrayals and for all of his scheming, you absolutely understand why he sees us as pretty much subhuman, you know, when you look at these majestic creatures and how kind and goodly all of them are as well, you know. They all literally do have the best intent for the use of their magics and for the health of their planet as a whole, you know. I still do wonder what actually was bringing on the original disaster in the Ascian homeworld on, like, the original star, you know. What caused them? What caused all of these disasters to happen? The firestorms and the earthquakes and all of these things that were really ripping the planet apart. The apocalypse. What was it that started that and that forced the Ascians to summon Zodiac, you know? I hope that we get answers to that as time goes on, but this was really such an incredible section of the game. Obviously, it culminates with Emmet's speech talking about how non-virtuous our modern species are and how inferior we are and how he's the last hope for the Ascian civilization and all of this, and if we really want to fucking challenge him, then by all means, you know, follow him into the hellscape that is the projection of Amarot in chaos in the world falling apart, you know. So the dungeon was amazing, and my god, I tell you what, I'm not going to comment too much on all of the cutscenes and everything that happened, you know, before and after the trial and all of that kind of stuff. I'm just not going to do it because those videos were uploaded like a couple of days ago, so if you want to see those reactions, by all means, go check those out. I will say that, man, the last trial was fucking amazing. Thematically, the cutscenes were so fantastic. Seeing Duty Finder get made into a lore piece and actually get explained by the lore, and getting made kind of like canon, you know, was really incredible as well, you know, through Rahatia's magic. I did think that Ryne was dead for a second, actually, when she was kind of skewed by that shadow magic, that shadow bolt that Emmet tossed out. But I mean, let's be real. What really did it, what really made this fucking trial so hype was that moment with Ardbert, you know, when all hope was lost and Ardbert finally, we like joined hands, joined souls, and he effectively helped inhabit us, make us more whole, make us stronger, picked our asses up off the ground, and for the first time ever, we actually see our character, or rather hear our character speak with his voice, albeit, for the first time ever, you know. And that was so fucking good, man. That was just amazing. It was so epic. All of the trailer music kicks in again and stuff, and it's like, it was so fucking good. And of course, by the time that the fight is done, you see Arbert's spirit again, and he no longer has blood on his axe anymore, almost like he's been cleansed. It was just excellent. It was just fucking amazing. And again, you do feel terrible for Emmet towards the end, you know. After you finally defeated him in the trial, he begins saying, should I surrender this fight? What will become of our triumphs, our hopes, our despair? You know, it's like he's really struggling with this idea of just letting go. And you see all of the masks of all of the other Ascians, you know, and he's been carrying this terrible burden for so fucking long, and he can't let it go, man. He can't let it go. It's what's given his life meaning, his existence meaning for so long, you know. And he can't let it go. Thankfully, it culminates in one of the most fucking epic shots I've ever seen of all of the Scions channeling their magics, channeling their energies, their aether, you know, into the shards of Orosite after Thancred has kind of peppered him full of those, and we finally finish him off with Advent X, which is so good. And then finally, at last, once all of that is done, we see Emmet one last time. And of course, he knows that he's beaten at this point. And rather than being raging, rather than trying to cling to life, I was kind of expecting him to try to desperately cling to life and continue to stand as like the last hope for his civilization, you know, no matter what, until the bitter end. But he seems tranquil. And finally, for the first time in the expansion, that we've seen him in a long time, his shoulders aren't slumped. He's not kind of cowering under his own weight, like he's bearing this huge weight on his back, which is something you guys pointed out as well, which I absolutely love. The fact that I actually thought that it was something to do with all of the light in the first. That was maybe kind of turning Emmet off a little bit and kind of putting this huge dampener on him and maybe weakening him a little bit. But a lot of you guys pointed out that it might have just been the psychological weight of having the hopes and the memories of an entire extinct civilization resting on his shoulders, you know, and he really saw himself as the last hope for the Ascians that were once like the stewards of the world, you know what I'm saying? But now finally, that weight is taken off of his shoulders. He actually even smiles a little bit in his last kind of dying wish. His final words are effectively to remember us, you know, it's acceptance, man. Oh, dude, it was so powerful, you know, it was so powerful. Remember that we once lived, he says, you know. And it was so goddamn powerful because it really, again, Emmet never fucking lied to us. Not really, you know. And I think that even stood true in the cutscene leading up to the final trial, where he said that effectively, it was something along the lines of the victor of this fight, you know, will write history and the loser will be the villain, as far as history is concerned, you know. He accepted defeat so graciously in the end, to the point where you almost got the sense that it was just a relief to let go, you know, to just fucking let it go, man. And man, Emmet, come back to me. Emmet was such a fucking good character, and wow, man, what an incredible end to the expansion. I tell you what, man, there's some other stuff I could go into towards the end here, but this video is long as hell already. There's no fucking chance in hell I'm gonna get this up tonight. Sophie's gonna look at the length of this and be so pissed because she's gonna add all the footage to this thing. But I gotta cut it off eventually. So I'm excited. To continue on with the post-patch content. I hope you guys are pumped to see me and Sophie progress through that as well. You guys are fucking amazing. Thanks so much. Honestly, guys, thanks so much for the intensely warm welcome to the Final Fantasy XIV community. Really, I know a lot of viewers on these videos and not people who followed the channel back in the day, you know, from the original subscriber base, from when we played World of Warcraft. Though there are some of you guys, which is amazing. Some of you guys actually see, like, subscribe for 8 years. I'm like, what the fucking hell are you, man? You're a god, you know? But to all you new guys as well, just thanks so much for the welcome, man. I didn't ever think that this would happen with this channel, that we'd ever be able to shift into new things and tread new ground. But here it is, Ben. It's incredible. We are here to stay, Sophie and I can't wait to continue with this masterpiece of a video game. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed this quick, what a joke, you can tell I'm getting tired. I'd say this is actually a relatively brief rundown of all of that happened in 5.0 and all my feelings about it. I probably missed a lot of stuff out, but that is what it is. Thanks everyone, and I shall catch all of you guys just a tad bit later.